Good morning, Goa. Welcome to the Good Morning Goa show with your host Shoaib on HCN News and Entertainment channel. And today with me, I have a special guest, the president of the Chemist and Druggist Association of Goa, Prasad Tamba. Welcome, sir, to the Good Morning Goa show.
Good morning.
With me, I have Prasad Tamba, the president of the Chemist and Druggist Association of Goa, and he's here for a special reason. As from today midnight, 29th midnight until the 30th midnight, all the chemist stores across this nation will be shut down to protest. I would request him to first tell us why this protest and why the chemist shops are going to be closed.
Yeah, good morning, Shoaib. This is basically to oppose e-platform that government wants to regulate the sale of drugs in the country. Recently, the government has moved a proposal in the form of draft regulations by the Health Ministry for regulating the sale of drugs through this e-portal. Now, the problem with the e-portal, there are n number of difficulties as far as chemist trade is concerned. The basic and the prime issue is that of the IT connectivity. In the rural areas, there is not much of proper network. Then again, we have the computerized pharmacies or other wholesalers, which is again lacking. And basically, there is no proper pharma policy in place because for introduction of this e-portal, you need to have all these things in place. Because e-portal, the basic thing that we have to do is we have to register on this e-portal first. Once you get registered, whenever a customer or your patient comes to the pharmacy, he is made to, his prescription will be scanned at the counter, it will be uploaded. And this prescription is once uploaded, the bill will be generated through the system. And then we have to dispense the medicines accordingly. But while doing this, there are a lot of other problems involved. Because consider a situation where you are loading the prescription and suddenly there is a drop in the connectivity, which is often the case when some important work is going on. And then, there are n number of patients waiting there. So what is the situation there? Recently, we had a incidents in Great Britain where, lot of flights were stranded because there was a drop in IT connectivity. So looking at all these factors, and that this thing has to be uploaded in a time-bound manner. May it be the purchase, the sales of the drugs, then you have to mention the registration number of the concerned doctor, and all the patient's details have to be entered into the system. Then only the invoice can be generated. For this thing, it will take a lot of time. There is wastage of time and energy. And secondly, if a particular drug is not available from that prescription, you just cannot continue billing for that. So this kind of teething problems, and there are other problems involved as well. So this is just not practically possible. It's just impracticable. That's the problem.
So, since the last 1 year or so, you all have been speaking about online pharmacies. You all have been opposing online pharmacies, and in your petition before, which has been memorandum submitted to the government,
yes,
you have said that this is in a way a backdoor entry for the online pharmacists. How are you to linking both these aspects in that?
Yes, last year when we addressed this issue before the government, that is regarding the illegal online sale of drugs that's going on in the country, there are some sites which are selling these drugs without any regulations. Because see, our industry is basically regulated industry. It is bound by certain rules and regulations. We have to follow the Drugs and Cosmetic Act 1940. As per that, you have to have a valid drug license. Also the dispensing of drugs has to be done by a registered pharmacist. And there are other parameters that have to be followed, which is not the case. And in spite of the fact that we have made representations at the highest level, that is right from the Prime Minister, the Health Minister, everybody have been sensitized on this. But still, I'm sorry to say that illegal sale of drugs is still going on by way of this online sale of drugs. And this itself is a backdoor entry to this online sale of drugs. Because tomorrow, if this is successful, again that chain of online sale of drugs will come, which is still right now is going on illegally.
So don't you think that, when you say that this could lead to online sale of drugs, illegal, but with the e-portal being a mandatory thing where you have to upload the prescription,
Yes.
and then you have to the bill will be generated by the e-portal, the system itself. Will it not then streamline the numerous untapped accounts of medicine that are
basically the government wants to have a tab on the AMR, that is the antimicrobial resistance. You might be aware that there are certain drugs available that is in the form of antibiotics, which now have become redundant because because of the misuse and abuse of that drug. So there the government wants to have a kind of control to see to it that this antimicrobial resistance does not take place, or it is minimized rather. But the fact of the matter is that across the counter on the counter, these antibiotics are just not sold like your paracetamol or your Ceridon or any OTC products as such. It is solely on the prescription of a registered medical practitioners that we give antibiotic course. So the misuse and the abuse of these drugs, I don't know, because ours is a regulated industry, as I told you. It is governed by respective Food and Drug Administration department in each and every state. They have the inspectors which are always visiting us, and they take all this data. That is the sale, the purchase of drugs, the Schedule H1, which also includes this antibiotics. So those all the data is with this regulatory body. So I don't see any need for government as such to enforce upon this. No doubt that they can get all the data, but practically it is not possible. It is not practicable.
You mean to say it is not practical for the chemists to actually do this?
Yes, because it is time consuming. They all these things have to be done in a specific period of time, because even when it comes to the prescription has to be loaded. Basically, it's to be scanned, it is to be loaded, and then the bill will be generated. And if that retailer is not registered on the e-portal, you just cannot do any business.
And I think also simultaneously the doctors also have to be registered.
Yes, the doctor's registration, what they are insisting is that you put the registration number of the doctor, that is the MCI registration. The Medical Council of India, they give the registered number to each and every doctor. Now there are cases where some other prescriptions from the other categories are also received, like your BAMS, then the BHMS. So basically putting that number and the other things, it's very time consuming, and even they have said that the patient's data has to be entered, like patient's name, his identity, everything, though it will be kept secret, but that all these parameters have to be included. Whenever a patient comes to your counter, he is always in a hurry because he has already spent enough time with the doctor and he wants to rush home with the medicines that he has to take. So in this kind of a scenario, and considering that tomorrow if there is a breakdown in this IT network, you imagine the situation if there are 10 customers standing before at your counter, and this snack comes before loading the prescription. The patients are stranded there. This is basically what we are fighting for.
Prasad, enlighten me on this. I mean, you have seen how the Western countries function with regard to this online inventories, and they have a very sophisticated system of IT involvement where the doctors are registered, the pharmacists are registered. As you said, the last week the ransomware, which had a major impact on UK hospitals and across the globe. But does it not in the long run streamline the kind of medications that is provided to the people in the society?
Definitely, yes, sure. But before doing all this, we have to have a proper policy in place. I do agree, in the Western countries, we have got a good network where all these things are being taken care into. And there is a proper system, proper network which channelizes the sale of drugs across the counter. But here, as of now, we don't have that kind of a system. We say you put the system in place first, then we can definitely think of this kind of. But right now, with the present infrastructure and the available infrastructure in the country, it is just not possible to have this kind of a system in place.
So, but the second argument that comes forth from the political strata is that, with the GST coming in, the IT enability is going to improve.
Yes.
IT connectivity is going to improve because GST mandates again to be online registration and online filing. So, do you not then think that this is going to be a parallel inventory to the GST?
As it is, as you rightly said, with GST, most of the things are going to go online as regards your sales, purchase, everything is. So there itself we have to spend some time, because whatever system is now coming into place by way of GST, it is something that is afresh. So we have to get first acquainted to that system, and then accordingly the things will move. But this particular law that they want to make it into a law, the regulations, the draft regulations which have just been moved by the health ministry, we feel that this is just not required, because the Directorate of Food and Drug Administration or VET or any of these other departments, the data is available with the government. It is not that it is not there. Now for regulation of this sale of drugs, you have other forms that are available which can be put in place. But this, considering the time frame and the other things and the uploading of the data which is required to be done, this is going to be a lot of problem. And our appeal is also that you have to take the stakeholders into confidence. May it be the doctor's body, the chemist body, then we have the manufacturing side. All these put together, we can definitely sit across the table and we can sort it out and have a comprehensive policy as regards the sale of or distribution of the drugs in the country.
Going through your memorandum that have been submitted, a few points that you all have raised questions against. One of them is about the autonomous regulatory board that the government intends to set up, which in the initially first 2 years it would be financed, and then overboard they will have to be self-financed. What is the exact issue with this autonomous regulatory board that you will have?
See, again, the autonomous regulatory board, having that in place, that will have to have all these people into the fold. It might be from the manufacturing or from the from our trade or from the doctor's side also, because when you are having this kind of a board, all these parameters have to be looked into, and then you can have a autonomous board and then keep it functioning. But till the time we don't have that kind of infrastructure, I don't think that it is something viable.
And but don't you think that this would be a beginning for all these parameters to be fulfilled in the long term?
In the long term, see, that can be a case, but right now, as of now, we don't have things in place. As I've said, there are so many parameters like your IT, then the computerization, then other issues which are involved. There are some intrinsic issues which are also involved. So these things have to be in place before going for this kind of thing. I feel that once you start with that has to go with a bang. But till the time we don't have all these parameters in place, it is virtually difficult to have this kind of a system in place.
So have you all considered requesting the government that certain parameters be relaxed? For example, as you said, the e-portal registration, not that every prescription can be immediately uploaded and the bill generated immediately. There could be a lot of malfunctioning with the IT inability that we are currently facing.
Yes.
So in such circumstances, what are the other alternatives where, the industry will have to come forward with some solutions, because the government wants to streamline not just the chemists, but also the way drugs are provided to patients.
On this count, I think on 16th of April, our parent body, that is the All India Organization of Chemists and Druggists, AICD, has already submitted a memorandum at the Prime Minister's office and at the Health Ministry also, in addition to the other bodies, that is DCGI, Director Drugs Controller General of India, and the other places. But after waiting for 1 month, we have already put almost 10 points in that as to how this thing has to be made. We get it in those memorandum with the copy which has been submitted. And we had a detailed discussion, the detailed plan as to how to go about. But so far there is no response from the government side, nor from any other agency that, that we sit across and we discuss and, we get going on that.
So, just moving ahead with yet another objection that you all have raised with regard to this particular notification of the rules, and that is with the amount that is going to be charged for every prescription
Yes.
that is going to be uploaded. I suppose it is as per the notice, it is 1% of the total cost,
Or
which
200 rupees,
which will not exceed more than 200.
200.
So,
So
this
then-
has to be
then-
borne
then-
by you, or what is, how is this
Yes,
work?
right now, at least, see, there is ambiguity as far as this particular issue is concerned, because see, it is not a clearly defined. They have said that the 1% or the 200 rupees, whichever is higher, has to be levied. Now, who will have to bear that is another problem, because we have all these kind of taxes and the other things that, plus we have the overheads, and it is just not possible for us to bear any kind of this amount which is to be charged as a fee for that e-portal. So ultimately it will go to the customer side and they will have to bear it.
And another issue that, I mean, in terms of the government's view, it is something that we are looking at as the people's welfare, and that is with regard to generic medicines. How is this not going to be possible with regard to generic medicines?
See, right now in India, what we have is the branded generics. We don't have generics as such, because all those which are available across the counter are branded generics. So, in the branded generics or generics for that matter, today, quality and the potency of the drug is of utmost importance. So, if they want to make it by way of generics, the prescription has to be in generics. The basic thing that will have to go is the government will have to make BE compulsory or mandatory. B is nothing but the bioequivalence study of the particular drug which is done, and that study, there you can get the potency, the purity and the quality of the drug. If supposing that is made mandatory, tomorrow I don't think that there is any issue if the generic drugs are dispensed across the counter, because today the basic thing with the generic drugs is there are n number of companies that are manufacturing. Some of these companies are not known, and supposing tomorrow a drug is prescribed by a doctor and some other this thing is dispensed, and the patient doesn't get the desired efficacy of the drug, again the doctor and the patient is at this. So we feel that the government has to make this bioequivalence study mandatory so that you get good quality drugs across the counter.
With regard to this e-portal, I mean, I'm still when the government is proposing, what are the options that you are coming up with proposals where you're saying, okay, let's go phase wise, or some proposals in that manner where even the industry is willing to move ahead to streamline this? Because as we know, in India we have a lot of quacks, first of all. In addition, as you said, there are other doctors who are not allopathic doctors, and they still do prescribe medicines. How do we then bring everybody on board, all the doctors first of all, and then also eliminate the quack factor from these medicines?
That's absolutely right, Shoaib. The basic thing that the government will have to do is they will have to sit with all these bodies, listen to them first. Here we have a problem that government is just not listening to even the memorandum or this thing is not answered. So let us have that kind of an interactive session with all the bodies. We can formulate that policy, and yes, as per the needs of the patient or the customer, a tailor-made this thing can be done. But this is what has been now proposed in the draft regulations is absolutely, it is such a harsh one that we won't be able to comply with that. That's the basic problem.
And what are going to be the implications on the patients per se? I mean, with regard to such kind of a rule being mandated, which is the notification would be issued, and if it is mandated, then you will have to follow, because then the government is going to otherwise crack its whip. So what are going to be the implications on the people, the population at the large extent?
Basically, the people will have some kind of a problem by way of that, as I've said, if the prescription is not uploaded properly or the scanning is not done, the medicines are not available on that prescription, then again they will not be able to, we will not be able to dispense that prescription in the first place, and they will be at this, because there can be delay in getting the medicines. If supposing there are 4 medicines on a prescription, I don't have the second or third medicine, we will have to call for. In that bargain, the time is wasted. That same prescription cannot be loaded because that entire prescription has to be dispensed. So there the patient can be at a problem because he might not get all the medicines together. So in that situation, he might have to wait for some time and then he can get the desired drug. So that can be, there can be a delay in getting the prescribed medicine. So that is another worrying part that we see in this entire scenario.
Is it not a case where the other side of would say this could be a case where without knowing the actual outcome we are making a lot of halla gulla already on this issue? Is it something of that sort, or is it a genuine problem that is going to affect the masses at large?
Looking at the gravity of the situation, we feel that this is right now a big problem because ultimately these draft regulations will be made a law, and since there is no response from the government whatsoever, so we feel that there is every likelihood of this kind of a situation, emerging situation, that might be in store.
So in this 24 hours band of yours that the chemists across the country are going to hold on from today midnight to tomorrow midnight, how much of an impact are you looking at the people going to have?
See, basically we have already sensitized the general public by way of our press releases, and there is a lot of noise at the print and the electronic media regarding this 30th one-day Bandh that we have all across the country, where almost 8,50,000 chemists are participating in that, and it's going to be a virtual Bandh on that day. So what we have requested the general public is to buy the required medicines that they take regularly, either today or by today evening, so that they are not at problem. In case of emergencies, the government hospital pharmacies will be open. So in case they have any problems, they can go and buy the medicines at the counter there. So we have taken enough care to see to it that the patient and the public at large will not be at inconvenience when it comes to getting some drugs which are needed in emergency. So in those kind of situations, we have taken care that the government hospital pharmacies will be running.
So the last question would be, the association has decided that yes, we will go head on with the government and either perish or be successful in getting through your demand.
Yes, because right now it looks like to us as the survival of the fittest, because we don't have any other remaining. Looking at the response from the government, at least if there was some response, then we could have thought of some of the this thing to be done. But right now, as it looks, government is in no mood to listen to anybody, nor any of the memorandums that have been submitted to them. So I see that we are left with limited options but to go on a Bandh on 30th of May, that is tomorrow.
So on that note, where the chemists and druggists across the country have decided to go on a one-day Bandh of 24 hours starting from midnight of 29th until the midnight of 30th, where more than 8,50,000 outlets, druggists will go on strike and stores will be shut. As Tamba says, that precautions have been taken, that no problems or inconvenience should be caused to the people at large, but everyone has to brace to such a situation where the druggists are getting going head on against the government after not receiving any positive response from the government on their memorandums against the e-portal implementation strategy that the government intends to go ahead with. Thank you, Prasad, for joining us this morning on the Good Morning Goa show, and thank you viewers for tuning into HCN News and Entertainment channel. Until tomorrow when I'm back again, once again with yet another guest, keep watching HCN.